So good morning and thank you. I want to acknowledge all of our local elected officials. Premier, I got to thank you for your constant support. You just had a few moments to talk to some of my officers. The constant support from this government for our frontline first responders is remarkable, and we at Peel appreciate every minute, sir, of your time. Obviously, this is the province's announcement, but I just wanted to highlight the reason we're here to talk about it is of a significant issue that is not just unique to Peel, but right across this province, first responders have been dealing with a small percentage of individuals that create the greatest harm to our community. And these are repeat violent offenders that are part of this cycle of crime that causes tremendous harm to our community. And we have seen changes and steps forward to improve this environment, but the need for serious change and reform continues to be on our doorstep. And here in Peel, we have anecdotal stories repeatedly of individuals that are out on bail that are back causing harm. And I would like to say that today is an important step forward in this change, not just on behalf of Peel, but all of the police chiefs in Ontario. We're absolutely appreciative of the efforts to make reform as it relates to violent repeat offenders in our community. And so with that, it's my privilege to invite the Honourable Michael Kerzner, Solicitor General for the Province of Ontario.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here alongside Premier Ford and my colleagues. I said yesterday in the Legislature, I said it last week during my tour of Eastern Ontario where I visited 8 police services. I said it this past Monday at the annual meeting in Ottawa of the Canadian Police Association, and later that day at the Ontario Associations of Chiefs of Police meeting in Cobourg. I said that in my lifetime I have never seen a government more committed to our public safety anywhere in Canada more than our government led by Premier Ford. We turn words into action, and I'll tell you why. We will never compromise our inherent rights to live safely in our own homes and communities. And our government, led by Premier Ford, will be bold, will be innovative and unapologetic when it comes to public safety. And we are proud to have the backs of everyone that keeps us safe every day. And that's why we're here at this flagship Peel Police Service for an important announcement that will make a real difference in protecting Ontario and our communities. Criminal acts that are committed by individuals out on bail are one of the most frustrating issues facing the justice system today. It's frustrating because it's happening over and over again, with repeat violators of bail conditions getting bail again and again. And we have had enough. And most of all, it is frustrating because bail is under federal jurisdiction. And while we're doing everything we can to keep the people of Ontario safe, only the federal government can end the catch and release system. So dangerous offenders are kept behind bars where they belong. Our government has been a national leader in making a case for meaningful bail reform and will continue to make it. And until that happens and reforms become reality, criminals will not see us on the sidelines. We've expanded the class sizes at the Ontario Police College to get more boots on the ground. Each year, incredibly, 2,100 more just this year alone. And we're providing helicopters with advanced equipment to give police eyes in the sky and ensure criminals have nowhere to hide. We've made a transformational investment of $112 million to ensure that high-risk and repeat offenders comply with their bail conditions. Protecting Ontario does not mean anything. It means everything. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Miigwech.
Good morning. It's great to be here with the Premier, Solicitor General, Attorney General, Parliamentary Assistant, MPP, and all the men and women in uniform. And I'm proud to serve alongside them in a government that, under the leadership of Premier Ford, is doing everything we can to support law enforcement, protect our communities, and keep criminals behind bars. In January, we launched a new bail compliance dashboard to provide police with near real-time data to monitor high-risk offenders on bail for firearm-related offenses and ensure they comply with bail conditions. This initiative was funded through our bail compliance and warrant apprehension grant with an investment of $8 million over 3 years. This resulted in 429 charges laid on individuals who did not follow their bail conditions, and a 21% increase in the number of individuals being monitored by Ontario Police Services. Put more simply, our government is putting in the resources and building the legal framework necessary to get real result and protect Ontario. And as we move forward, we will continue to do whatever it takes to keep our communities safe and keep criminals where they belong, behind bar. Thank you, and I'd like to pass it on to Attorney General Downey.
Good morning. I'm Doug Downey, Ontario's Attorney General, and today I am proud to be here at Peel Regional Police Headquarters alongside Premier Ford and my colleagues. You know, Solicitor General Kerzner and Associate Solicitor General for Auto Theft and Bail Reform, MPP Khalid is here, I believe. We're working as a team, and before I begin, I just want to thank the outstanding police services and the first responders here in Peel Region and across the province. As you fight crime, hold offenders accountable, and protect Ontario, thank you for all that you do to keep us safe. The police are working hard to investigate and arrest those who break our laws, but more must be done to keep violent, repeat offenders off our streets. Earlier this week, we announced changes to strengthen our courts and increase resources for prosecution. And yesterday, we outlined new measures to fight auto theft by cracking down on car thieves. Our government is taking a strong approach to protect Ontario communities by ensuring our courts and law enforcement have the tools they need. So today, I'm excited to be here as Premier Ford will announce the latest tough-on-crime measures. I would like to now turn it over to the best Premier in the country, Premier Doug Ford.
Appreciate it. That's coming from the best Attorney General in the country and Solicitor General. And so, good morning, everyone, and thank you, everyone, for joining us here today. And it's great to be here with Ministers Kerzner, Hamid, Downey, Gulateri, and PA Anand. And I'm so glad to also be joined by a champion. He's an absolute champion, Chief Nish, who's a champion for our police, but here in Peel and right across our province, as well as Mark Baxter from the Police Association of Ontario. And Nando, you're doing a great job here as the chair of Peel Region. Keep going, my friend. Just 2 months ago, our government received a strong mandate from the people of Ontario to make sure that we protect Ontario. It's a mandate to protect our workers and businesses from tariffs and economic uncertainty. But it's also a mandate to protect our communities and make our streets safe. Because right now, the federal government's broken bail system is letting far too many criminals back onto the streets just days or even hours right after being arrested. Enough is enough. At the provincial level, we are doing everything in our power to strengthen bail and keep criminals off the streets. We launched new bail teams made up of special prosecutors just over a year ago, and they're already producing real results. These teams have been involved in more than 3,000 cases, helping keep people accused of serious crimes behind bars and helping resolve these cases faster than ever before. That's why today we're making them permanent with dedicated, intensive, serious, violent crime bail teams across Ontario. We're also improving and increasing the collection of forfeited bail money from people who breach their bail conditions and their sureties, and launching a comprehensive overview of the bail system to ensure it is effective. And we're working to establish a new user fee system for people who are ordered by a court to wear ankle monitors so that they are paying for their own devices instead of the taxpayers. And our intention is for the proceeds to cover the cost of the ankle monitoring program and support victims of crime. My friends, we're doing whatever it takes to make our streets, our homes, and our communities safe again, but we cannot do it alone. That's why, once again, I'm calling on the federal government to pull its weight and keep our streets safe. With a newly elected federal government now in place, we are counting on them to bring in stronger penalties and more restrictive conditions for bail, so violent repeat offenders stay behind bars and off our streets. We're stepping up, we're cracking down on criminals, and we're standing with law-abiding people of Ontario. I want to thank you, and may God bless the people of Ontario. Chief, do you want to say a few words?
Thank you, Premier, and I just want to commend you and your government for putting the resources towards what's posing the greatest risk to our community. We in Peel, within the last month, one of our officers stopped an individual in a vehicle that had a loaded firearm, was already on release for charges of firearms, was sitting with their surety in the vehicle, and had an ankle monitor on it. And that is just an anecdotal story of what happens here in Peel on a day-to-day basis. Far too many people suffer in silence by those that are harming our community, and the time for change is obviously right before us now. So these proposed reforms are absolutely what we need. The tireless work of our officers on a day-to-day basis can't go in vain, and so these changes will definitely strengthen our ability to keep violent offenders in custody. But it also puts the focus back on the victims, those that are being harmed in our community. Our communities do deserve a system that is better for them, that keeps dangerous offenders behind bars where they belong. And so with that, I do want to thank Premier Ford, Attorney General, Solicitor General, MPP Hamid. Thank you for this announcement today. On behalf of the policing community, we're absolutely appreciative of this step forward to enhance the system. And I think with that, I guess we're opening up to questions.
That's right. We'll now take questions from the media. Media present can line up behind me and ask their questions through the microphone. As a friendly reminder, the format is one question and one follow-up. Please state your name and your outlet before your question. First question.
Hi, Premier. Randy Roth from CHCH TV.
Hey, Randy. How you doing?
Good. It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Today, the Financial Accountability Office put out a report that says Ontario is going into a recession in 2025, and in 2026, potential growth will be cut in half because of the tariffs. All of this is a result of tariffs. Is it inevitable that Ontario is going to be headed into a recession this year? And is this going to affect government revenues to the point where you won't be able to do all the program spending that you foresee?
Well, great question, Randy. I'm going to disagree with that. Let's see what happens. We're continuing to see investment in our province. Minister Vic Fideli just came back from a trip with $400 million of commitment to create 1,000 jobs. The week before that, it was over $1 billion of investment, creating another 1,700 jobs. But say the tariffs will hurt? Absolutely they'll hurt. But I have confidence that we'll work things out with the United States, with President Trump. We have a newly elected government federally. I'm sure the Prime Minister will be going down there to talk to President Trump. The only thing that we will accept is zero tariffs. It's simple as that. The supply chain is so integrated that it's just going to hurt Canadians and Americans. So I'm confident. I really am. I always look at the glasses half full, and no one can predict the future, but I'm predicting that we're going to do better than other jurisdictions around the world and around North America.
On another topic, was related actually, it's Opposition Day at Queen's Park, and the opposition is going to introduce a bill that would require retailers to label what is made in Canada on their shelves, what's made in the States, and require big box stores to clearly mark when prices have gone up more than 2% within a 7-day period. Is that necessary, or is market demand for Canadian goods just doing that already?
The market's already doing it. They've been doing it for ages. I don't know where they're coming up with this. Maybe they don't shop in local stores. Maybe they buy online. But you go into any retailer, and the people have spoken. They hear them. I've talked to all the big retailers. And you go down any aisle, you're going to see Canadian flags, made in Canada, and as well, you just turn around the package and it will show where it's produced, either here or the U.S. or somewhere else in the world. So I think the companies have listened to their consumers, and they're doing it already.
Good morning, Premier. This is Nitin Chopra from Prime Asia.
Hi.
Premier, the government data suggests that there is 200 plus deaths per day by the use of illegal substances, including opium, fentanyl, opioid here in Ontario. That data is on the government website. So for last year's, whatever government step has taken to reduce this, because we have seen lot of shootouts, lot of parents, they lost their kids inside the home shootings. What are the steps government has taken into stopping these fentanyl, and it is selling openly here in the market?
Yeah, well, one big problem is something called safe supply under the federal government. There's been many stories in the media about this, that drug users will go in, get their supply of whatever, free supply, and then go out and sell it back on the streets. This is the most crazy program I've ever heard in my life. It's like giving an alcoholic a free pass to the LCBO. No, these people need help, and that's why we have heart hubs that we're putting right across the entire province, spending over $550 million to help people get off drugs, get back on their feet, find a job, find a place to live. And we want to arrest the people, these drug dealers, and keep them in jail. But guess what happens? They go to court, and the judges slap them on the wrist, let them out the next day just to go back and do the exact same thing. You know, we're throwing everything in the kitchen sink at fighting crime. We need the federal government to do the same thing. We need mandatory sentencing, that if someone commits a heinous crime, I'm not talking about stealing a chocolate bar, I'm talking about drugs and heinous crimes, they need to stay in jail.
Premier, another concern, the residents, because we are the media, we bring that concern in front of you. In your first term, you mentioned to fix the landlord-tenant board. And the second term also, we hear the same concern from the residents. Landlord says they don't have any rights. Because if case goes to the LTP and it comes in the favor of a victim, then victim has to go to the small courts to follow that case. So they are into the court system for approximately 18, 16 months or 24 months. Then also they don't get a justice. The landlords, they don't get their money, what they lost in the unpaid rents. How to fix that system? And we have Attorney General also here. We would like to hear from them also. Is that hard to fix the LTB system here in Ontario? Thank you.
Well, before I pass it to the Attorney General, you know, we have some of the, well, we do have the toughest tenant laws in the entire country, bar none. But the pendulum has swung the other way now. People are taking advantage, and I'm not talking about the big landlords that own 2,000 units or whatever. I'm talking about the mom and pops that have saved everything throughout their lives to have another income property, and these people are going in and just totally taking advantage of them. I heard a story yesterday, and this is staggering. A 96-year-old woman had tenants downstairs. They had a flooding problem. So what she said is, I'm going to move in with one of my kids until we get this fixed. Well, it took a couple months, 2 or 3 months, and the tenants moved upstairs and everything's hunky-dory. This poor lady goes back and they locked her out of her own home. They got it fixed, but you got to be kidding me. These are the problems that we're seeing over and over again, the abuse that some tenants taking advantage, little mom and pop folks that are just trying to make a living. They've had to take other mortgages out on their property. You know, we're fixing it, but I'm going to hand it over to the Attorney General, and we have to make changes, and we need to make them immediately, and I know the Attorney General is working on it as we speak.
Good to see you, Nitin. You know, the landlord-tenant board, we've doubled the number of full-time adjudicators. We had a backlog through COVID. That's down significantly. The traditional number of hearings per year is about 80,000, 85,000. Last year was 100,000. The non-payment of rent is normally about 80% of the caseload. It's now 50%, so the rest are more complicated. But all of that said, we hear the frustration. The Premier has been very clear. I am told, fix this thing, get it back to where we will encourage people to rent out their units where they are currently not renting because they're not satisfied with the system. So we hear the frustration. I believe I have a mandate to fix it. We are back on the job.
Good morning, Premier. Steve Cornwell here from the Trillium.
Hi, Steve.
Last year, there was a bit of a controversy around the appointment of judges, and you specified there was going to be a certain criteria for new appointments that the province would make for judges. Today, can you kind of clarify what that criteria is? What exactly are you looking for in new judges to kind of handle the crisis, I guess, that's being outlined here today?
Yeah, again, before I pass it to the Attorney General, I'm just, there's so many great judges, first of all, and there's great JPs. I'm a strong believer in our judicial system, but it's out of control now. Like you see these criminals getting out on bail, not once or twice, 4 or 5 times, and going out and committing heinous crimes. There's a story that someone was out on bail 5 times and went and killed a young lady. This is absolutely ridiculous how these judges keep letting people out over and over and over again. I'm just done with it. We're going to hire tough on crime judges, tough on crime JPs to make sure that they follow the law and keep these people in jail because they're just being released. You could go in and kick in a door, put a gun to someone's head with kids in the house, terrorize that house, and guess what? By the time they get arrested and get out, it's the next day. And then they start mocking our police in the back of the police car. Don't worry, I'll be out by the time you start your shift. And what happens? They're out before they get, before they come back on duty. The system is broken, and there's a lot of terrible, terrible bleeding heart judges out there. You know something? If it happened to them, they might take a different look at it. And that's not a knock against all the judges, because there's good, qualified judges. We have great chief justices. Matter of fact, probably the best in the country. But the system's broken. And once these judges get into their position, they have this sense of entitlement. That's what drives me crazy. We were democratically elected as a government, and I always say the legislature is supreme, meaning the people are supreme. When you get a mandate to do something, you can't have judges constantly overruling the government. Or I have an idea. And then again, I'm going to emphasize, not all the judges. I've said it 3 times. But why don't we have the next election, the PC party, the Liberal Party, the NDP party, the Green Party, and the Judges Party? Because they overturn everything, right down to the bike lanes. So, we get democratically elected, and some judge slaps an injunction on bike lanes. Don't the judges have anything better to do than worry about if we're taking out bike lanes or not taking out bike lanes? One judge says, yeah, not a problem. The next judge, not because of law, because of their ideology. Their ideology is thinking, well, maybe we shouldn't take out the bike lanes. What right do they have, an unelected, politically appointed judges, determining our budgets? Because of the decisions the judges have made in the past have cost us $10 billion. And we ran on a mandate. We got elected democratically. Last time I checked, there hasn't been any judges elected. Maybe that's the problem. We should do what the U.S. does. Let's start electing our judges, holding them accountable. And that's my rant for the day, because I've just had it. We get elected to move forward, and some judge, because of the ideology, decides, well, let's put an injunction on bike lanes. You got to be kidding me. The system is broken. And I apologize to all the great judges, all the great JPs, but the system is broken, and we have to change the system. Over to you, Attorney General. Sorry, it made me feel better. I've been meaning to get this off my shoulders for 7 years.
You should see what he says in private. Thank you, Premier. Look, the question is what sort of criteria are we looking for? We're looking for people who understand community, who understand what's going on in the community, who understand the frustration that individuals in the community are feeling when they're on the victimization side. We are hearing from people, as politicians we hear from people, who are afraid in their own driveways. And that is not acceptable. We need judges who will take the law, apply the law, understand where community sentiment is at. I think that's an important piece of the puzzle. So when I review judicial applications, when they come out of the independent committee that recommends, if they don't recommend them, I don't know who they are. They never come to me. But if they're recommended and I look at the application and I review, I'm looking for somebody who is going to enforce community standards. I'm looking for somebody who understands community and somebody who will, quite frankly, help protect our communities. And that can come in a number of different ways. It can come from previous life experience. It can come from different backgrounds. I'm really proud of the judicial appointments that we've made to date, but we have more work to do, and I hope to be able to talk more about it in the coming days. Thank you.
Just to follow up then on the judge's questionnaire, Premier Ford, are you you put a lot out there. Are you supportive, for example, of having a system where judges are elected as opposed to appointed? It seems like you're talking about some big changes here.
So what I'm for judges keeping people in jail that commit crimes. I'm for judges that don't give bail 4, 5, 6 times for a guy to get out and murder someone. An innocent girl gets murdered over people out on bail and being their doors kicked in. It's unheard of. We always talk about the crime in the U.S. That pales compared to what's happening here. Cars are being stolen. People are flying in from other countries. They have a list for 2 weeks, and they commit all these crimes, hop on the plane, and they leave. These are the problems we're facing here. But again, enough is enough. The party's over. These people have to stay in jail. And I'm going to be all over the federal government about bail reform, mandatory sentencing, to make sure they give the judges the tools. Matter of fact, the judges have the tools right now. They just don't want to use them. Simple as that. You want to keep a violent criminal in jail, you'll keep them in jail. They just don't want to keep them in jail. Little Johnny was a good little boy. He goes to church every Sunday. Let's let him out for the 6th time to go kick someone's door in and put guns to people's heads, terrorize neighborhoods, go into stores, put guns to people's head. It's done. These people have to be in jail, and they need to be in jail for a long time, and there has to be more accountability.
Hi, Premier. Jayden from Global News. Obviously something you're very passionate about. You even addressed bail reform to your open letter to newly elected Prime Minister Mark Carney. Have you spoken to the Prime Minister since that letter? Have you gotten his attention? If you have, is that something that was addressed when you guys spoke?
Yeah, and I spoke to him yesterday, but it's all the premiers. This is a second letter now to the federal government. You know, I got to give a shout out to Wab Canoe. He's sending another letter as well, the Premier of Manitoba. The guy's an absolute champion. And all the premiers have signed off on it. When I did it the first time, usually it takes, a week, 2 weeks to get a consensus. I made 12 other phone calls to all the premiers. Every single one of them said, we're in, we're in, we're in. It didn't matter what political stripe. And we have all 3 political colors as premiers. But they all agree on one thing: let's stop the crime. And this falls this falls on the lap of the federal government. They do the criminal code. I have an idea. The federal government, let us do the criminal code. And I'll guarantee you, tomorrow, once we have a criminal code, then bang, this will stop immediately. And we'll be building more jails. We're already building jails, but we'll be building more jails because these guys are going to be in jail, and they're going to think twice about going and robbing someone when they know the sentence is going to be 5 to 10 years in maximum security prison. Watch how quickly it stops.
So it sounds like you're kind of lost confidence in the federal government. How confident are you that this new government will do something about bail reform?
Well, I'm confident that hopefully the new Prime Minister, unlike the previous Prime Minister, didn't want to do anything. The new Prime Minister, I have confidence that he believes in keeping communities safe, which I know he believes in that. And I'm sure he believes in keeping criminals in jail. So let's see what happens. But again, I'll be on them like an 800-pound gorilla, like I've never been on them before, because people are fed up. They're done with us.
Good morning, Brendan Kennedy from the Toronto Star.
Hi,
Mr. Premier, I wanted to ask you about an incident that occurred at one of your provincial jails about a year and a half ago. Staff at Maplehurst Correctional Complex have been accused of meting out a collective punishment against nearly 200 inmates. The incident video of the incident has been played in court. We published it on our website about a month ago. A judge said the video shows jail staff, quote, breaking the law by abusing the very prisoners they have a duty of care to protect. Your Solicitor General has not commented on the video. I'm wondering, as Premier, when you watched the video, what did you think?
Well, everyone should be treated fairly. You know, even though they're criminals, we've got to treat them like humans. But I'll pass this over to the Solicitor General.
With respect, Mr. Premier, I'm interested in what you thought of the video.
Again, I believe, and everyone should be treated properly as human beings. And I'll pass it over to the Solicitor General.
Well, thanks very much. And you and I have spoken in the legislature, and I said to you, and I'll repeat it again, the matter is subject to an investigation. And my expectation is that all peoples who keep Ontario safe, everyone that keeps us safe, has to uphold the highest standards of professional conduct. And when they don't, there'll be consequences.
My understanding is the investigation is completed.
Well, that might be your understanding, but it is still subject to appeals. And I'm not going to comment on the specific incident, but I'll repeat it again. When it comes to our expectations of the professional conduct of everyone that keeps Ontario safe, it's simple. They'll maintain the highest standard of professional conduct, and when they don't, there'll be consequences.
Liam Casey, the Canadian Press. Morning, Premier.
Good morning.
Back on the judges and their decisions. How serious are you about this idea of electing judges, and what can the province actually do anything to change the system?
The criminal code and justice system falls under the federal government, but someone has to be held accountable. I use the word sense of entitlement. That's how I feel. And again, I feel bad saying it because there's fabulous judges out there, fabulous JPs, but like any group, there's some bad apples that just believe in we shouldn't throw anyone in jail. Let them run wild. You know, let's rob everything. Let's hold people accountable for once in the system. Why don't we post this judge has let Johnny out 6 times and he just murdered someone? Who's accountable? Does a judge call the family up and say, I'm sorry, I let this guy out? Like, something has to give. I just can't stress it enough. We have laws for a reason. We build jails for a reason. We hire judges for a reason. We hire police for a reason. How do you think our police officers feel? They put their lives on the line, okay, every single day. They go to a break-and-enter. Sometimes they catch them, sometimes they don't. They've pulled guns on the police, as we've seen recently. They just blatantly start shooting our police. You got to be kidding me. And how do you think they feel going home every single day and seeing their family, and some don't return home? So let's protect our police, let's protect our communities, and we need tough on crime judges. You know, one of these judges that are bleeding hearts, I can't wait till they retire. Matter of fact, I'll pay him to retire earlier. I'll pay you out for 2, 3, 4 years. Just get out of the system. Simple as that. And we'll get judges in there that 90% of the people are saying, rah, 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 let's go. Go into communities that they're hiring their own security to protect them because they're worried that their car is going to get stolen. And if they can't get the keys, guess what happens? It's happened a gazillion times. The door gets kicked in, have the guns, intimidate the people, terrorize neighborhoods. And then all of a sudden that neighbor tells all the other neighbors. Well, and then he's out on bail and he's doing it again and again and again because there's no fear for these criminals. We need to keep them in jail. Simple as that.
Thanks, Premier. The judiciary is supposed to be independent of political sway. This sure sounds like you're trying to sway the judiciary. What do you say to the independence of the judiciary?
You know something? That's a joke as far as I'm concerned, and let me tell you the reason why. There's no judge appointed anywhere in this country, anywhere in the United States, anywhere in the world that's not a political appointment. Simple as that. You think these judges just come out of the blue? You think the appointments from the federal government? Do you think that the Liberal government for the last 10 years is going to appoint a tough on crime, conservative-minded judge? Not a chance. Not a chance. They have this little group over the last number of years that, oh my goodness, not part of our group, then everyone else is a bad person. Let me be very clear to the people that elected us. We're going to be tough on crime. We're going to hire tough on crime judges and JPs, and they need to do their job. Simple as that. But every judge in this country has been politically appointed since before Moses. Maybe Moses was even politically appointed. I don't know. But I'll guarantee you one thing. We're going to be tough on crime. Simple as that.
Hi there, Lorenda Redikoff with CBC. When you spoke about judges earlier, you mentioned that recent bike lane ruling. Olivia Chow has talked about wanting to come up with some kind of solution, working with you. How have those negotiations been going?
You know, I think, and Olivia's or the mayor's from a different political stripe, but I get along with her great. I'd rather sit down and come up with solutions. But those bike lanes are coming out one way or another. And that injunction, we are going to appeal it. I think, Attorney General, we have till tomorrow. We're appealing it. Because judges should not determine items like bike lanes. When we were Democratic elected, I ran my campaign on getting rid of these bike lanes. We were elected, and all of a sudden, because of ideology, that's what drives me crazy. Because of ideology, they decided to put an injunction in. Why don't you listen to the people? Why don't you tell the people in Etobicoke that are stuck in traffic or along Yonge Street or the emergency vehicles that can't get down University that, no, I think it should be, we should have bike lanes. Because that's what ideology is all about. Not following the law, listening to a democratically elected government. Again, why do we have elections? If every single decision we make, you can get an injunction or throw it to the courts. Enough is enough.
An economic question. Apart from the worst of COVID, the unemployment rate right now in the province is higher than it's been in more than 10 years, since 2014. How do you explain what happened there?
Well, again, the tariffs are a major, major factor in this. But let's talk about, since we've been elected, there's over 1 million more people working today than there was 7 years ago, because we've created the climate and the conditions for companies to come here and invest. And we're going to continue looking for companies to come here and invest. And that's why we have Minister of Economic Development, Vic Fideli, flying around the world, attracting companies to come to the greatest sub-sovereign nation anywhere in the world. And we're going to continue working on that.
This will be the last question.
Hi, Premier. Laura Stone, Globe and Mail.
Hi, Laura.
I think you may have made some news today. I want to ask about federal issues. You're here making a tough on crime announcement. Yeah. I didn't hear much of that from the Liberal platform, but there was a lot of that in the federal Conservative platform. Why didn't you come out with Pierre Poilievre and make these kinds of statements during the campaign?
I shouldn't interfere in the federal election. Last time I checked, Pierre Poilievre never came out in our election. Matter of fact, him or one of his lieutenants told every one of his members, don't you dare go out and help the PCs. Isn't that ironic? But anyways, I'm not going to dig deep into this. The people spoke, and I have no say in who people vote for. But I'll tell you one thing. We have a government, democratically elected. I will hold them accountable. I'll hold them accountable like I would no matter if it's a Conservative government or a Liberal government. My interest is protecting the people of Ontario, and I will be all over this government. They know I will be, as I was before, about being tough on crime.
Premier, you've said before you're born with a C stamped on your forehead. You talked about having a blue sign on your lawn. Yep. Why is there so much bad blood between you and the federal party, and how does the federal party start to build bridges now within the Conservative movement as they look to the next 2, 3, 4 years?
Well, all they have to do is make a phone call. I like a lot of the MPs, but the people spoke, and they spoke loud and clear. They spoke loud and clear in our election, and they spoke loud and clear on the federal election. And so that's democracy. They elect who they want.
That concludes our announcement. Thank you very much.
Thank you.